Okay. So yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is because you have experience with animal-based diets and you're somebody that's an advocate for animal-based diets. And I think that that's awesome to give women that freedom. What have you seen in your practice? What juxtapositions, what differences, and what have you seen in terms of blood work and overall health of mom and baby based on preconception or during pregnancy nutrition or even postpartum nutrition?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm sure that you'll agree with this statement that when we go through the process of school, we're taught certain things that are just very like dogmatic, like this is how it is and this is why we do what we do, and you really don't have an opportunity to reach outside of that bubble. And midwifery is definitely more holistic in a sense, where we're taught things like nutrition in school. But what I was taught about nutrition in school was definitely not, an animal-based diet. It was, like get your leafy greens and get your, grains and all these different things. And so while I was grateful that we had the education of nutrition, it's nothing that I would consider optimal nutrition at all. And so I have weaved my way through this journey of midwifery with always questioning everything. And anytime that I start to see a trend with women feeling a certain way, like I always look to see like, how can we do things different? And the one thing that I've noticed that has just completely blown my mind with how women are feeling is really, really, really advocating for women to get these nutrient dense organs, these nutrient dense foods into their system. And that should be pretty much common sense. Like, why would we not want, this is the time where they need it the most. But we've moved so far away, like, my first trimester, I'm so unhealthy. Like I haven't been drinking my green smoothies. And I'm like, I don't care if you're drinking your green smoothies, like go eat a steak. Last week I had a phone call from somebody and she was saying, I'm online reading and what I'm reading is that I should not eat steak. And if I do, it has to be well done. And I was like, does that sound good to you? And she's like, no, I don't even want to eat a steak if it's well done. I'm like, go cook the steak how you want to eat it. Eat a good source of steak. Make sure you're not getting it from who knows, McDonald's or whatever. I don't think McDonald's has steak, but, make sure that you're eating something that intuitively you would eat normally without going on Dr. Google and saying what Dr. Google says. I actually have some of the testimonial that I posted on my Instagram, and I just wanted to read a couple of things because I found it really beautiful. I love having that feedback. So this was from a client that's had 3 pregnancies with me, and she said, this raw beef liver are what took me from barely surviving to functioning well. That's something I hear very, very frequently. Another one is best supplement I've ever taken, best prenatal out there. The only thing that ever made my hemoglobin up, I noticed my blood circulation improved drastically. The only thing that's ever changed my hemoglobin besides eating my placenta postpartum, literally felt a burst of energy every single time I took these. I was so sluggish before. So like, those are like real important words to me. Like I want everybody to feel like that in pregnancy. In general, I want everybody to feel like that. And you don't hear that about much anything else. Like when do you hear somebody say those words, So we started recommending specifically your products in pregnancy, I would say within the last 18 months to 2 years, with in the start of COVID. That's how I kind of found you. And it's what I typically have women on is the beef liver and bone marrow supplement, and then the lifeblood. I want to hear what you have to say about what you would consider an optimal prenatal vitamin. I don't recommend people take a prenatal vitamin. I recommend that we supplement with these real types of foods. I also think that some women would really benefit from the fire starter just for those fats. Most women would benefit from that. But is there anything else that you would think that would be beneficial? Because that's a question I got a lot on my Instagram page, is like, what would be the ideal prenatal for, preconception and pregnancy and postpartum?
Yeah, we can talk about it. And just so you guys listening, no, I didn't pay Lindsey to say any of that. Like, no. I had no idea she was going to say that about Heart and Soil. I mean, we love that people are benefiting from our desiccated organ supplements. I think fresh organs are the best, but if people won't or can't get fresh organs, we're glad that we do something of the desiccated stuff at Heart and Soil. I didn't know you were going to say that, but thanks for that feedback on that stuff. There were a couple of, you shared with me from your Instagram some of the questions from your audience, so we can make sure we get to those. So I think that in terms of prenatals, the main reason that women take prenatals, at least in the mainstream society, is folate, because folate deficiency is associated with spinal, neural crest deformations in spina bifida and things like this. So you want to make sure you're getting enough folate. Now, where do women get folate? They get it from egg yolks, they get it from liver. Those are probably the best sources of folate. So I think women who are in pregnancy should definitely have egg yolks, either cooked or raw. Now, I want to talk to you about raw foods, because this is something that I always scratch my head on about in the future. When women say, can I eat raw egg yolks or can I eat raw liver during pregnancy? And I think, let me think about this. So let's bookmark that for a moment from now. But egg yolks and liver, I think, are the best sources of folate, though women may be able to get folate from leafy greens. My concern is that much of the folate is heat labile and is destroyed or denatured by cooking or heating. And the leafy greens are going to carry with them, from my perspective, a lot of other negative things for women, either oxalates or isothiocyanates, which especially in pregnancy could be problematic. Those are compounds that are going to inhibit the absorption of iodine and prevent optimal thyroid function. And if you're growing a baby, you want your thyroid to work really well. You don't want to be giving yourself goitrogenic compounds like isothiocyanates. The list goes on and on of other problematic things in leafy greens for humans, phytic acid, things that are going to prevent nutrient absorption. A lot of this conversation in a moment between you and I can be about iron as well, and iron deficiency anemia in pregnancy. And so lots of these defense chemicals in vegetables will prevent the absorption or assimilation of minerals like iron and can contribute to iron deficiency anemia. That is what things like phytic acid and oxalates essentially do in our gut. So I think that in terms of a prenatal formulation, in terms of vitamins and minerals, you want to think about folate. So that's egg yolks and liver. You want to think about riboflavin as well, because sometimes women get iron deficiency anemia that is uncorrected by iron, and that can be a riboflavin deficiency. Riboflavin is a very interesting B vitamin that we don't really hear about much. I mean, I didn't get any nutritional training in PA school, medical school, or residency. So my training was even worse in nutrition than yours. But we never hear about riboflavin in general. I was never taught that in medical school, that iron deficiency anemia could be riboflavin deficiency. But riboflavin is generally found in liver and heart. Those are the best sources. Egg yolks are okay, but not as good. There's actually some riboflavin in the egg white as well. But again, we're back to animal source foods. It's very hard, I think, for men or women to meet their requirements for riboflavin if they are not eating animal organs, primarily liver and heart, and maybe egg whites and egg yolks. Those are the main things. Now, I purposely left out muscle meat from both of those conversations about folate and riboflavin, because muscle meat doesn't have nearly as much riboflavin as organ meats like heart and liver. And muscle meat really doesn't have much folate at all. So the conversation around folate and riboflavin is also relevant for those who have the MTHFR polymorphism, which is important in pregnancy. So this is a little technical, but it's the MTHFR, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. There's two common polymorphisms, 677C to T and 1298. I forget what the base pair translation is there, but these are found on things like a 23andMe test will tell you. But what I would do from my perspective as a physician, I would just make sure that the woman or the man has a homocysteine below 8. You want to keep the homocysteine low. So even if you have an MTHFR polymorphism, if your homocysteine is low, then you're pretty clear, presuming that your B12 is normal and your MMA, which is methylmalonic acid. It's getting a little technical now, guys. Sorry, which is an indication of B12 status. Presuming that your B12 is okay, and these other metrics of folate status are normal. If your homocysteine is less than 8, to me it indicates that you have enough riboflavin or enough folate. So that would be the metric to look at there. Now, I think that for most women, the desiccated organ supplements will be fine. Just keep a track of that homocysteine and even the blood levels of folate. It's pretty hard to check blood levels of riboflavin, but I do think fresh organs are better than desiccated, and we should recommend fresh organs first. The desiccated are really there as a support system if people can't or they want more supplementation on top of the fresh organs. So then that's essentially my idea of a prenatal. So if I were going to make a prenatal food, it would be like a little bit of liver, a robust amount of heart, maybe some spleen for women, because spleen has a ton of heme iron, and spleen will correct the appearance, the phenotype of a placenta reminds me of a spleen. Those two organs look the most similar to me. I've joked that a spleen is like a blood sandwich, and that's not to be gross, it's just to describe it to people. And I think that the placenta is pretty vascular and spongy. It's kind of like a spleen. So it would be liver and heart and spleen would be great, because the spleen is going to give the heme iron and the other nutrients. So those would be the organs that I would want women to focus on in pregnancy. It's pretty hard to eat raw spleen. It's pretty hard to eat cooked spleen. I think desiccated gets to be really valuable here as well. Maybe even some blood, like some desiccated blood. So that's in our lifeblood supplement from Heart and Soil is blood, spleen, and liver. The new supplement Warrior has heart and liver. And then, like you said, the bone marrow is probably important for the fat. And then animal fat in general is critical for women. You can use fire starter, but you could also use tallow or grass-fed butter, preferably raw butter, or just a really fatty steak. And this is going to depend on what the woman or the man does. If we're talking about a woman in pregnancy in terms of her nausea, I wanted to ask you about nausea as well. But